Oh boy. Sometimes, I am so ready to give up on sometimes I'm so ready to give up on the Rumble player. It's or the Rumble Studio. It is it can be challenging sometimes. It wouldn't let me actually start. I mean, I started, but it wouldn't clear out to let me play my intro. So let's play the intro. It's perfect. And it won't let me play the intro. All right. We're going to do it live. We're doing it live without the assistance of Rumble Studio. Hello my friends and welcome to another episode of the JD Rucker Show. Trying so hard to make Rumble Studio work. I really want it to work because I love it. So I love Rumble so much. And if you're watching, you're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. I promise. I promise I'm trying really hard, folks. I am trying really hard on this because I want Rumble Studio to work. But for just as an example, what you just saw happen, that was the response to a button click. I'm not kidding you, from over 2 minutes ago. I clicked the button and it didn't go, and then it pops in there 2 minutes later. Let's start from scratch. All right. Let's hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the JD Rucker Show. We are not going to be attempting to utilize any of the fancy features of Rumble Studio. Not today, maybe not ever. Like I said, or what I was trying to say earlier is that I absolutely adore Rumble. I think that Rumble as a platform, their mission, their goals, their desires are just right spot on. They're trying to preserve free speech across the world. They're willing to fight against those who would suppress free speech. They're trying to give a platform to people like me, people who would normally not necessarily have a platform. And so God bless them. God bless Rumble. But man, the technology sometimes can be quite challenging. So we're going to go tech free today. Hopefully, Lord willing, you can hear me because it keeps taking this only is through Rumble Studio. It keeps taking my microphone down a few notches. Maybe it sounds better that way. We are going to be monitoring one awesome thing about Rumble, the Rumble Studio, that is. Plenty of awesome things about Rumble. The one awesome thing about Rumble Studio, and the reason that I really want this to work, is because I can monitor all the chats. I can across all the various platforms. Yeah, I can hop in there and see who's chatting, what's being said, and I don't have to have different windows open for YouTube or for X or for anything like that. I can just hop in there and see them all in one spot. And I love that. That part of it is unbeatable, totally unbeatable. But so far, just saying, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, so far I've had some challenges. And to be clear, I know that a lot of other people don't have these challenges. So I know that there's at least probably 70-80% of it is me, right? I mean, it should be that I have, for example, a full-blown production team behind me. That is the goal. That's the intention. That is the direction that we've been heading. I had been talking to a studio to work as our producers. They offered me a reasonable rate. Everything was good. But one of my sponsors actually said no, not to necessarily finding a producer, but they're hopeful that we can. Basically, long story short, is they're looking at somebody internal, and that would make it a bit easier for them to be able to get the assistance that they need across the board. So instead of me hiring a producer and them hiring a producer and one of their other show hosts hiring a producer, why don't we just get one producer to manage all of them? Makes sense to me, especially since in that scenario it would be free, at least to me. So yeah, so we're still considering that. But if not, then I do have a producer waiting in the wings. I also had an unexpected, unplanned call, or technically it was a text. It's a call for tomorrow with another. Uh, I can't go into too many details because I don't have a ton of details until tomorrow. But a burgeoning network, we'll say, a freedom-based burgeoning network that will hopefully be able to help us move up in the world as well. It won't change anything if you're watching on Rumble or X or YouTube or wherever. Don't worry, nothing changes for you. You don't have to go to Blaze or Daily Wire or anything like that to watch me. We're always going to keep our material here where you're currently watching. That's always going to be readily available. It's always going to be free. It's always going to be, Lord willing, better technologically inclined than it currently is. But as long as, see, it just, I'm going to ask you all in chat. So this is where I set my volume randomly. I'm going to keep my eyes on it. This is going to look very horrible for video, but there it goes. Okay, so now I need you beautiful people in the chat. This is where Rumble forces it to be set. Can you still hear me? Is the volume coming through even at this level, or do I need to figure out how to fix the volume and try to fix it permanently? Your all's call. How do I sound? Am I coming through? Can you even hear me? Because if not, then I'm going to have to. This could be the last straw as far as. There we go. We'll set it up there. This could be the last straw as far as Rumble goes. It's just there's nothing I can do. I set it and then it reverts back. It does it automatically unless I can figure out a way to fix that. Then are stuck with whatever volume Rumble sets us at. So you guys let me know if you can hear me. If you can't, so be it. That's funny because I every time the volume changes like that, it just keeps changing. Every time the volume changes like that, I end up losing viewers. I think. I think I'm going to have to make a command decision here. And unless somebody tells me that they can hear me or they can't hear me or whatever, we may have to refresh the feed altogether because this just isn't working. I mean, nothing I can do. It just resets it back every single time. Oh, well. And I really don't want to go back to the old OBS style because with OBS, the challenge there is that Rumble doesn't give you credit for it. In other words, you have to accumulate a certain amount of hours live streaming on Rumble. But if you stream through a system that works, then your hours don't count, basically. So I'm going to assume that the volume is too low. And unfortunately, we're going to scrap today's show. That really sucks because there is some important information out there right now happening as we speak. Jamie White, this was so sad. Jamie White over at InfoWars murdered Sunday night. I guess maybe early Monday morning. According to Alex Jones, we are deeply saddened to inform you that InfoWars reporter Jamie White was brutally murdered around midnight Sunday night due to, in part, to the policies of the Soros Austin, Texas District Attorney Jose Garza. We pledge that Jamie's tragic death will not be in vain, and those responsible for this senseless violence will be brought to justice. Jamie's important work will be carried on through InfoWars, our readers, and our cherished listeners. Now, I never actually spoke directly to Jamie White, but I have engaged with him. We post his stories all the time over at thelibertydaily.com. And Alex Jones, I'm not going to play it because I don't want to risk screwing up the system, but Alex Jones had said that Jamie White was was their best writer. And I don't disagree with that. I know they've got a lot of great writers over there, but Jamie White, whenever his stories popped up, 9 times out of 10, I would post them over at thelibertydaily.com because that's how important his work was. A true loss there, and I pray for his family, pray that they are able to bring the culprits to justice. And I hope this isn't a politically minded thing. I know that sounds weird to hope about motive, but we are at a crossroads. You know, it's been very easy for us as conservatives, I believe, for the last 2 months. Not easy is the wrong word. We've had a whole lot of good news, a string of good news popping up, and I think really there's been a shift over the last week and a half where things are starting to, I guess, come back to reality, become more grounded in the reality that there are still tens of millions of people who are blinded, indoctrinated, brainwashed by legacy media, by the radical left, by the Democrat Party, by the Uniparty swamp, the deep state, and the globalist elite cabal. They are still walking around like zombies, thinking that Trump and Elon Musk and Marco Rubio are fascists. They're thinking that this whole idea of government waste, they've been so brainwashed that they are vehemently opposed to ending government waste. They need the government to waste their taxpayer dollars. They need the government to stick it to us as often as possible. It's like a national Stockholm syndrome on the left. They have become so accustomed to being captives of our oppressors that they love them. They adore being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. They love the notion of us working hard, us, maybe not them, but at least us working hard, and yet seeing very little in return for it, and watching as our taxpayer dollars service a debt that is then redirected towards foreign countries, towards foreign groups that oppose us, that hate us. We are in many ways funding our own demise as a nation. It's unprecedented. You can go back to all of the empires across all of human history, and they've always been destroyed from inside. Yes, that's true, but they've always been destroyed from inside without necessarily paying for it paying for it to be brought in. In other words, they weren't sending $8 to foreign nations that are vehemently opposed to our way of life. They weren't sending them to NGOs that operate with their sole mission as being the eventual destruction of the United States of America. We do that as a nation, and that's horribly stupid, amongst other things. All right, we're gonna try to move forward. I will make this will be a very short show for sure, because I don't want to spin my wheels, and if the sound just isn't coming through appropriately, there's no way I can tell. When you're live, you can't tell if it's working or not, but we're going to pretend like the sound's not awful and is at least workable. There's one story. Here's a piece of good news, though. I thought not just good, but actually quite entertaining. This is from last week, but I didn't catch on to it until the weekend. I thought I got to make sure everybody else knows about it because this is brilliant. It's beautiful. It's a big, beautiful troll by President Donald J. Trump. Pentagon caps civilians' government charge cards to $1 limit, and limits travel as part of Trump's cuts. So I'm not going to read the story. Basically, they were instructed. The Trump administration tried to take away everybody's government-issued credit cards, and they were instructed, ordered by a judge to return those credit cards and turn them back on. So they did, And then they put out a memo that there is a $1 limit. $1 limit. What they were finding, what Doge found, is that these 5,400 government employees, many of them, civilian government employees, many of them were utilizing their credit cards to pay for pretty much everything. All their lunch, their buddy's lunch, their dog's lunch. They were just wasting it out the wazoo because the limits had been basically nil. So Trump took those away. Elon Musk took those away. But then the judge said, no, you can't do that. You got to give them back their credit cards. So it's like, fine, we'll do that. But we're putting a $1 limit on what they can spend. That is arguably, I would say, top 10 favorite troll from the second Trump administration, maybe even top 5. That's a pretty good one. That is epic level trolling. We did have some, I wouldn't necessarily call it bad news. It's news. And it's annoying news, but I think a lot of people are positioning it as really horrible news, and it's just bad. It'll turn horrible if it persists. But I think the reasoning behind this particular judicial action wasn't so bad, not nearly as bad as some of the activist lawfare that's being used against us. According to the right scoop.com, federal judge blocks Trump from deporting Mahmoud Khalil. For those who don't know, Mahmoud Khalil is the green card holding, or formerly green card holding, Columbia student who was rallying pro-Hamas protests across the school. He was the ringleader, and he was supporting a known and government-declared terrorist organization. This was his goal. This is what he did. As a green card holding immigrant, temporary immigrant, who was willfully accepting the generosity of the United States while being against our ideas, our doctrines, our freedoms, supporting a terrorist group that to this day is still holding innocent hostages for no reason other than to be evil. That's what they're doing. I know there's going to be people out there. Oh, but the crimes of the Israelis, the crimes of the Jews. I am not a big fan of taking hostages and sex slaves as retribution for terrorists being in prison. Look, we're not going to downplay. I'm not one of those guys that sits here and like, oh my gosh, Israel is totally innocent of everything. I don't know. It's not me. I just don't see the events of October 7th being congruent to the quote unquote oppressions committed by the Israelis against the quote unquote Palestinians. But we're not going to get into that. Let's get into this article. A federal judge has just blocked the Trump administration from deporting pro-Hamas activist Mohammad Khalil, who they arrested over the weekend because there's a challenge to his arrest. The judge says he must remain in the U.S. to preserve the court's jurisdiction. In other words, his deportation is not being blocked because of, oh my gosh, we've got to prevent, keep all of the terrorist sympathizers here. It's being blocked because, hey, they got an open court case. We got to hear the court case first before you can deport them. It's, again, I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just saying it's a heck of a lot more reasonable than some of the decisions that we've heard, some of the court orders that have come down from these activist judges. According to NBC News, as hundreds of demonstrators rallied in New York City on Monday to demand the release of Mahmoud Khalil, a federal judge just steps away, blocked the Palestinian activist and Columbia University graduate's removal from the United States. Judge Jesse M. Furman said Khalil is to remain in the United States to preserve the court's jurisdiction as the court weighs a filing challenging his arrest. Sorry, very poorly written. Little grammatical mistakes there. A hearing was scheduled for Wednesday at federal court in New York City. Khalil attended Columbia University and helped organize protests last spring about war between Israel and Hamas militants in Gaza. Let's call them terrorists because that's what they are. He was arrested by federal immigration agents Saturday over what officials said was his support for a designated terror organization, Hamas. Hundreds of demonstrators rallied in New York City on Monday to demand his release after President Donald Trump said Khalil was the first arrest of many to come. Furman is an Obama appointee, go figure. In case you're wondering, I'm not sure this hold on deportation is completely unreasonable given the lawsuit, but at the same time, Khalil is not a U.S. citizen and authorities have every right to deport him, especially given his terrorist sympathies and activism. So, yeah, look, again, I'm not supporting what the judge did. I'm not supporting. I wish he would have been deported. Okay, just deport him. Court case pending. Sorry, have your lawyers continue on and try to argue it, while you're somewhere else. But with that said, I've seen many. If not, I might have. I think I've actually read through all of the various judgments against Trump, and there's been dozens. And I'm not when I say all, I'm all the major ones, all the ones where this gets blocked, this person has to be rehired. I've read through them all, and almost all of them are completely unhinged. This one at least has a basis in some sort of common sense. That's all. That's all I'm suggesting. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right, it is hard to stay focused knowing that I'm having these technology issues. So we are going to call it a very, very, very short show, and I apologize for that. Not my intention, but considering the way things are, I can't even tell for sure if any of this is working, if anybody's hearing me. So we're going to cut the show short today, and starting tomorrow, I will be going back to the old style, the old technology that we knew worked. I love Rumble, and I'm going to keep cheering for them and hoping that their studio is easier for me to use, and perhaps if I do get a new producer here soon, that they will be able to make it work for them. Again, I'm not blaming Rumble by any means. It is probably 60-70% my fault, but I know for sure that I clicked that button and it didn't pop up for 2 minutes. I pushed play and sat there and waited, and I even restarted my computer. It's like, well, maybe and it's not like I'm sitting here with some Mickey Mouse computer. This is like a Core i9 or Core i11 or something like that. This is like this should be very much sufficient to handle the show, and under other technologies, it does just that. But in the meantime, I think it is best to ask for a mulligan and retry again tomorrow at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and see if we can't make this work better. I would much rather cut the show short today than to drag it out and have it maybe find out later that nobody could hear me or anything like that. So, Lord willing, I will be back very soon with proper technology and everything else. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.